In March 2017, a battered VW camper van rattled down a Dallas freeway at a chassis shaking 60 miles an hour, no doubt loosening some of the aging space stickers attached to the windows. As my fingers clutched the sides of the passenger seat, I prepared to die. It occurred to me that after the inevitable crash, at least a personalised licence plate would make us easier to identify. It read, WF, a woman's place is in the cockpit. WF stood for the driver's initials, a 78-year-old pilot called Wally Funk. Mary Wallace Funk, to be precise, but she refused to answer to Mary, or Wallace. It didn't matter either way because it was obvious that she was better suited to flying a plane than driving a car, as neither of her hands were on the steering wheel. Her right hand groped around the back seat, searching for something. The van meandered worryingly into another lane. A piece of paper wedged behind a visor caught my eye. It appeared to be a medical form. The only discernible words were, "Do not resuscitate." When my voice emerged, it was part shout, part squeak. "Put your hands on the wheel!" Wally turned towards me with a mischievous smile and all faked innocence replied, "What? Have you never driven with your knee before?" Meet Wally Funk, a woman born for descriptions such as force of nature, unstoppable, and at times, woman with a death wish. Over the last few years she's tried unwittingly to kill me several times, and though Wally might be surprised to hear this, I have also felt like killing her. Somehow we became friends. This is Wally Funk's Race for Space. It's by Sue Nelson, who is a journalist and broadcaster, so she's done quite a lot of work for the BBC. She runs the Space Boffins podcast. She's interviewed basically every astronaut, and she's written about Wally Funk because Wally Funk's fascinating. She was one of the women who were part of the Mercury 13, so you've probably heard of the Mercury 7, but the Mercury 13 were a group of women who did exactly the same tests as the men, ready to go into space, and then the programme was pulled. I'm not going to tell you why because it's in the book, but yeah, so it didn't happen. So none of those women ever went into space. Lots of people don't know about their story. So Sue Nelson set out to start to tell it, and Wally's force of nature, as it said in the reading. So she's essentially, her and Wally have become friends, and she writes about the times that she spent with Wally and what Wally's trying to do. Wally became the first woman in America to examine crash sites, so she would go out and determine the causes of accidents, run the investigations. So she's lived a really interesting life, but she's determined still to go into space. She's 79 now. She has a ticket for Richard Branson's space flight, first public space, or she's on the list for the public space flight anyway, so essentially she's in a race against time now, as to whether that flight happens and she can be on it. So yeah, this tells her story, and also talks about other women in space, and the way that they've been treated. So Helen Sharman, for instance, being written out by the British Space Agency as being the first British astronaut in space, because of course once a man comes along it's all about him instead. So it's a really feminist piece of work, and really interesting. I was really gripped by it. Sue Nelson's done a great job telling Wally's story and putting it into context with other space expeditions and other people who've flown. So Wally and Sue and Teresa Anderson, who is the director at Jodrell Space Bank, are going to be at the Central Library, 4 o'clock, Sunday the 14th of October. 3 women on stage talking about space. How fantastic is that? Yeah, so it should be amazing. I will see you there.